Hello there folks, and welcome to another video. Now, Assetto Corsa EVO, the one thing that I seem to see cropping up time and time again on the Discord and the Steam discussions and pretty much all over, is the FPS of this early access title. Now, I have read just about every tip I could find on the internet to try and get my FPS sorted out, and here is a quick rundown of my system just so you can compare it to yours. Now, what I've tried to do in this video is pull together some of the tips that I've found both in the Nvidia driver and in the settings, and just kind of explain my benchmarking process and how I've got it to this stage where I'm pretty consistently getting about 90 to 100 frames per second, and in the background I will have this race running which I did round Bathurst. All my benchmarking is done with the same track and the same car. It's always Bathurst and it's always this Honda. What I initially did was set the sim to its default lowest setting possible in the graphics settings, so the slider all the way down to the lowest possible, and then I started with 10 cars on the grid, noted down the FPS, which at this stage was well up around about 180 frames per second if I remember rightly, and then I would add 2 cars at a time onto the grid, and each time I did that I would exit the game and then restart it again, because I do think there is some sort of memory leak going on. If you leave the game running and do several races in a row, I still get the FPS dropping quite dramatically. So I started with 10 cars and then went up to 12 and then 14, etc, etc. I was quite surprised how little effect it had adding 2 cars at a time. So as you can see here, I'm comfortably running a grid of 20 AI, and what I usually do is I start from the very back, so 21 cars on track altogether. In the Nvidia driver, I went into program settings and actually selected Assetto Corsa EVO executable from my Steam folder, and then you can see there's just a few settings that I tweaked for this sim only. You'll notice that I have image scaling on. Now, a little bit more about that later on. Although I put it on here in the driver, I'm not actually using it. It's just a plan B for me if I could not get to the FPS that I wanted. So although I've enabled it in the driver, I'm not actually using image scaling here. And if I just scroll down, you'll see that I've got low latency mode set to on. I've got power management mode set to prefer maximum performance. Anisotropic sample optimization set to on. Texture filtering quality set to high performance. And texture filtering trilinear optimization set to on. So that's the only changes I have made in the Nvidia driver. So you can see as I'm loading the game up here, just in the early access roadmap, my FPS in the top right hand corner is hitting 240 in the menus. Drops to 57 as it loads the car in. And let's just have a little look at my video settings. So you can see I'm running it at my native aspect ratio and resolution, so 16:9, and my monitor is a 1440 monitor, so I'm running it at 2560 by 1440. You will see the other lower resolutions available to me with image scaling. Now, I've not had to try this yet. It's still an option open to me, but I'm running it at native, no image scaling whatsoever. I've got the gameplay frame rate up at 240 just now, VSync off, full screen on, and triple screen off, obviously. Let's have a little look at the graphics options now. So the graphic preset says custom. Upscaling mode, DLSS. The DLSS preset I am using at the moment is balanced. I have no anti-aliasing on at all, although the low option has forced a little bit of FXAA. Texture and anisotropic filtering I have in low, texture pool size on medium, and bear in mind my graphics card has got 8GB of video RAM. Level of detail is low. Experimental static level of detail is off. Vehicle level of detail is medium. Global illumination update frequency is medium. Ambient occlusion is off. And volumetrics on low. Reflections, environment reflection is low, and car reflection is low. Shadows are very low. Experimental sim shadows are off. And screen space shadows are off. Environment, I've got grass density off, and I've got cloud quality on low. And then as far as post-processing goes, I just run it on the natural one. I think it looks best. So there you go. That is my settings. You can pause your video screen and note them down. Try them out for yourself. Let me know in the comments what sort of FPS you are getting with these. I'll show you a bit of gameplay which will feature daytime, nighttime and a little bit of rain, and you'll be able to see the FPS again in the top right hand corner. It shows the FPS, shows the load that my GPU is under and the load that my CPU is under. So here we go, this is at night time, and you can see we're up about 95 to 100 FPS with all the headlights on, etc, etc, which adds to the load. And of course we're driving from the cockpit cam, which as we all know is the hardest on FPS. If you put it on bonnet cam or even the bumper cam, the FPS goes even higher. Now let me show you the setup I use for all my benchmarking. So it is always Bathurst with the Honda S2000, and if I just show you the setup I'm using here, so race duration is always 4 laps, start time midday, race time multiplayer 48 times to try and get different types of lighting. Grid position is 21st on a grid of 20, and I set the opponent skill round about 92%. As long as I can be racing the first car in the last lap, I'm quite happy. And I always have it on dynamic weather as well, just hopefully it'll throw in a bit of rain which will tax the FPS as well. So you can see here, driving from the cockpit view, the most demanding. Nighttime, you can see there's a little spot of rain coming as well, and we've got 80, 77 FPS, no problem with all of this going on. So what I intend to do is, now that I've got this happy medium, is possibly to cap my FPS round about 60 and just get a nice smooth 60 FPS. Still got a little bit of headroom there, but maybe capping it at 60 will stop some of the little stutters that I see now and again. If you're wondering what I get in replays, it's round about 60 to 70 FPS, and it all looks pretty good to me. So now that I've got this sorted out, what would I like to see from Kunos in the next patch or two? Well, for me, the big problem now that I've got a grid of about 20 cars is the AI. They are absolutely awful, especially at Bathurst. Normally, in the first time you go up the hill for the first time at Mount Panorama, and the kind of sharp left-hand turn at the top, the cars just run into each other, they run into the side, it's absolute carnage. So if Kunos want us to have a good driving experience and give them feedback on that, then they really, really need to sort the AI out as soon as possible. Anyway, listen folks, I hope this has helped some of you. I know I'm preaching to the converted a little bit with tweaks to the Nvidia driver and everything. A lot of you guys will be saying, hey Andy, we all know this, there's no need to tell us this. However, what I'm tending to see on some of the forums and discussions online is I think there's an awful lot of people who have come from consoles relatively recently, maybe in the past year or two, bought a PC and they are not used to tinkering around with things. Us old timers know that we have to do this with PCs, whereas with consoles, you pretty much switch them on, fire up the game, and it just works. So I'm kind of aiming this video at folk who might need a little bit more help than a seasoned PC user. However, I hope some of you seasoned guys get some help out of it as well, get these FPS up, and have a decent experience with Assetto Corsa EVO. Let me know what you think in the comments. If this video was helpful to you, give a wee like, subscribe to the channel, and I shall see you in the next video. Cheers for now.